Well, good afternoon and thank you for joining us. I'm Latrice Curry. We are anticipating Air Force One landing with President Trump in Rome, Georgia any minute now. The president is scheduled to speak at a local business this afternoon. Then he'll give a podcast interview. And after that, he'll tour a local factory and wrap up with remarks on the economy before heading back to the White House. Logan Dubel joins us now live from where the president will soon land. Logan, what have you learned? Later in the show, but of course Logan is there, and this trip coincides with early voting happening in that district. Here are the candidates running for that seat previously held by Marjorie Taylor Greene. There are 13 Republicans, 3 Democrats, 1 Libertarian, and 1 Independent currently in the running. The president says he'll be making an endorsement today. However, he already made one earlier on social media. On February 4th, the president wrote, quote, "It is my great honor to endorse America First patriot Clay Fuller." He went on to say, quote, "He is strongly supported by the most highly respected MAGA warriors in Georgia and many Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives," end of quote. Well, Clay Fuller posted on social media encouraging everyone to come out and support the president. He said, quote, "Join our team, the only candidate and team endorsed by President Trump." Sean Harris, one of the Democrats running for the district seat, also posted. He said in part, quote, "If the president is coming all the way to Rome, it's because Georgia voters are making noise," end of quote. All right, let's try now to go back to Logan Dubel from where the president will soon land at the airport in Rome, Georgia. All right, so we are looking right now there. Logan, tell us about what's going on. Just pick up this story and fill us in.
Hey Latrice, good afternoon to you. Air Force One in just the last minute or two touchdown here at the airport in Rome, Georgia. You are now looking live at Air Force One. Just again in the last 2 minutes, it has touched down. We know the president was a little bit delayed this afternoon as he was coming down here from the Board of Peace in Washington, where he was speaking this morning. And we know from here he's expected, of course, to visit a business, then go record a podcast, and then go see people at Coosa Steel. That'll be the big event where he's expected to speak as we've talked about the economy. Again, we know a few hundred people have been gathered there since 5:30 this morning. When I was out there is when we first saw some people coming out there waiting for the president. And of course, now we are expecting in the next few minutes as Air Force One moves down the tarmac, as you're seeing right here at the Rome airport. We're expecting the president, of course, to get off. The motorcade will take off, and then he will be making his way through Rome. So, of course, we will bring you these pictures again as we await the president getting off of Air Force One here. Latrice.
Hey, Logan, of course, we are looking right there at Air Force One landing, and just, again, it was delayed, but just talk a little bit about, of course, the scene where you are, because we see Air Force One, but what's the scene around you as far as like maybe the media pool or spectators? What's happening out there?
Yeah, Latrice, we've had a couple people who have been out here just awaiting the president's arrival in the airport parking lot. We first came here to the airport a little bit after 7 this morning. Security the entire time has been tight, of course, as you would expect. The Secret Service arrived shortly after we did, probably at around 8 or 9 o'clock this morning. So they've been getting this thing set and secure to make sure it is ready for President Trump the entire day. Another thing that's notable, just as we were walking back out here to the tarmac to get set for the arrival of Air Force one person we did see was Kelly Loeffler, who, of course, at one time was the senator from here in Georgia in the U.S. Senate. She also is now currently serving in this Trump administration as the administrator of the Small Business Administration. Another person we believe we saw earlier was Herschel Walker, who ran for a Senate seat here in Georgia and is, of course, a staunch supporter of President Trump. So just a lot of his supporters, of course, here in Rome. Media-wise, of course, we've got some people from Atlanta here as well, but certainly going to be a big day for all media and everybody across the country to watch what President Trump has to say here once he makes his way to Coosa Steel in a little bit.
One of the things, Logan, is we've covered over the years here, whether it's President Obama, whether it's President Trump, President Bush, who've been here, and it never, ever ceases to amaze me when you see that plane land, Air Force One, and just kind of talking about the major beast of what it is and what it entails in there. Just talk about the experience of being out there right now. As we are watching, it's kind of taxiing on into you, this experience of being there front and center with Air Force One.
Yeah, absolutely, Latrice. Front and center we are. You can probably hear it's starting to get extremely loud here behind me because the plane is getting so close. Of course, just the operation here is quite impressive. Obviously, you would expect tight security for a president, certainly with President Trump. But, I mean, the Secret Service has been out here, as I've said, for hours getting this thing set. We've seen dozens and dozens of Secret Service members, dozens and dozens of vehicles getting ready. We've seen dogs out sniffing and making sure everything is safe. But I'm just going to let you take this in here as Air Force One pulls in.
And once again, you are watching live there as Air Force One pulls in. And one of the things as we were waiting for the president to come off of Air Force One, you think about that plane, and one of the things we told you about earlier is when you're thinking about Air Force One, all the things that are on board that plane for the President of the United States at that particular time. One of the things is that it consists of several bathrooms, 6 bathrooms. There's also an executive suite on Air Force One. And we're looking right there because again, they're getting ready to let those stairs down where the President of the United States will always walk down those stairs. And one of the things then again is there you see them taxiing over there as well. And as we've watched, as I said, different presidents come and visit this area over the years, and you see that plane and everything that goes into a presidential visit, and also the back work. And one of the things, too, is that these aren't done in a bubble just overnight. The security that's put in, how security, FBI, Secret Service is sit down prior to a president's visit to do a sweep, to interview people, to go through the area, to make sure that everything is safe, to plan out the route, which way, because you just can't go any route, to plan out which roads they need to close down. We saw that there was one area closed down in Rome over by a store today, and we were looking, we don't know if that was closed down because the president was going to visit that area over there, or whether there was a protest and they were keeping protesters out of that area. But again, so that is one of the things. And there you can see, I do believe, I can only see the back of people's head, but I do believe, as Logan was talking about, I did see Kelly Loeffler and the back of Herschel Walker's head there, is what I believe that I saw. And because I can't see the faces, not sure of some of the other people who will be greeting the president. Let's see who's getting off. Logan, tell us about this right now as we are watching, looks like crew depart from that plane.
Yeah, that's right, Latrice. And again, you are correct. This is Kelly Loeffler, who, of course, was once a senator and now serving with the Small Business Administration and the Trump administration. And then, as you've said, Herschel Walker, who ran for a Senate seat here in Georgia and is certainly a strong, strong supporter of the president, along with some other people who are here awaiting him to get off the plane. You're watching, of course, the White House staff and many of the president's detail getting off of Air Force One right now. Again, it'll probably be a few minutes before we have the president coming down those stairs there off of Air Force One, but certainly just a lot to take in here. A lot of people, Latrice, that's the biggest thing just to remember. This is certainly a big security operation to make sure that the president can get here safely to Rome, Georgia.
Right, there's so many steps, and we can see them walking closer now. And one of the things is, I'm saying, Logan, and you are probably too, I'm looking at the back of people. Says, I think I'll be able to maybe see some side profiles soon, depending on what angle we're getting. But is the Georgia governor there? Do you know of any other Republican leaders who are out there? Is the Brian Kemp, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, there to greet the president, or any other Republican leaders?
Yeah, Latrice, it's, of course, as you've said, hard to see exactly as we're looking at the back of some of their heads. And certainly, actually, it looks like some of them may be walking and turning around, getting ready to meet the president. One person, and I can't quite tell exactly if on the end there you see in a blue suit with a red tie, if that's Clay Fuller, but it does, at least from here, look to be so. Of course, that's one of the biggest things that we're watching for here. Certainly the president saying he's coming here to talk about the economy in Georgia, but another big thing that, of course, we're all watching right now is that race to to replace former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Of course, early voting is already underway there, and we know that that special election is officially set for March 10th. He is the Trump-endorsed candidate, and the president has continued to say he is endorsing him, but earlier this week said he was coming down here to make that endorsement, and we know it's certainly a crowded field with 18 candidates total, but 13 Republicans, so it's certainly crowded. A runoff is possible to happen on April 7th. So, of course, that's one of the bigger things that we're also watching for today, as the president also talks about the economy. You see now the motorcade here coming up, so we will be probably seeing the president here in just any moment now, Latrice.
And one of the things, too, is that, well, talking about that, is that obviously that special election is huge, because right now, with Republicans holding a razor-thin margin in Congress, every seat matters as the president tries to retain power. So that is so important. And it, like everyone said, that just this visit coincides with that. And of course, the other candidates, though, Logan, surprisingly, aren't backing down. They're still saying that they, are going after that seat.
No, absolutely. And I mean, certainly we know a lot of the other candidates, some of them are also staunch supporters of President Trump. So it's certainly something to watch. Of course, again, 13 Republicans. That is a lot of candidates in this race. We know 3 Democrats, a Libertarian, and an Independent as well. So it's certainly going to be a race to watch. And it's obviously very possible that that heads to a runoff, with that election day being on April 7th. Again, if no candidate hits 50% on March 10th, then that is the direction we will be headed in.
And one of the things, too, Logan, in talking about that, I think that that's what they're saying the president is hoping to avoid, like a runoff in the GOP, which is why he is trying to endorse that candidate and get everyone to back the candidate that he endorses. So, again, as we watch this, one of the things, too, is that in looking at the car, and that is known as the front one right there where the president will get in, is known as the Beast. And we did a big report on that vehicle, on the Beast, when I think former President, of course, like I said, Bush and Obama came here too, talking about just how that car is specially made as far as being bulletproof, how heavy it is, how secure it is in that car. And that one is designed specifically for the president. And really interesting, some facts that we learned about that. So every president of the United States rides in that car known as the Beast there. So, and then, of course, his security detail follows him. And just really, like I said, the things that go into making that car so secure with the president in it, so that it's not easy. You can't, like I said, it's bulletproof and other things. And it's really, really heavy as well. So it really is, when you think about this and just kind of some of the fun facts about these president's visits, Logan, and some of the presidents who've been here, from the late President Jimmy Carter and some of the others. Logan, one of the things I did want to ask you about is your experience with the security sweep. How long did that take, and how intense was that going through that this morning to get through security?
Yeah, Latrice, well, I mean, we only found out that President Trump was coming here to Rome a little bit earlier this week, so it's certainly, a fast process for the White House to put everything together, of course, and make sure it's going to be secure for the president to come visit here. But in terms of us, we first came here this morning and set up all of our equipment at around 10 or so. We got everything set here. We're standing right now on the tarmac on top of just a small trailer where all the media is set up, just obviously this close to Air Force One, as you can see, and then the motorcade in front of that. So it is a small area that we're set up here. We left all of our gear here. They made sure everything was swept and that was all safe. We were just waiting in the parking lot for the last few hours as we were waiting for the president to arrive. And then we came in just about 15-20 minutes before Air Force One touched down here just a couple of minutes ago. And they made sure that we went through metal detectors and that we were checked once again as we came back in. So certainly a lot of security just to make sure, again, obviously with any big leader, but certainly the President of the United States with the Secret Service is keeping things tight.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things, too, is like, and in this, from our perspective, like you're saying, when we look, let's see, is that the president? There's the president right there. Logan?
Yeah, Latrice, and I will just let everybody who's watching take this in here as President Trump comes down from Air Force One. And there you see the president, Latrice, greeting Herschel Walker and Kelly Loeffler. and the other people there in that line waiting to greet him.
And again, Logan, as we can see and watch the president walk down what can be called a receiving line with the invited guests out there. And just a reminder that on the end is Clay Fuller, whom the president has endorsed.
Yes, it does appear to be so, Latrice.
Okay. Now, as we just kind of take this in and watch the conversations, the interaction with the invited guests to meet, to greet the president there. And now the president, of course, Logan, heading to get in his car, known as we called it, the Beast, and his security detail will be in tow behind as he makes his way to his next stop. You want to tell us about that, Logan, as we are about to watch the president leave?
Yeah, Latrice, we are, of course, watching the president. We're expecting that he's going to be heading to a business, and then we were told he's going to be recording a podcast before making his way to Coosa Steel, where, of course, again, we know people are waiting for his remarks. Another thing that you can't see, because I'm assuming we are zoomed in here on the Beast where you see the president, we also have the White House press corps. It looks to be led by, of course, the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. So they are making their way off the other direction, back off the tarmac and into some of their vehicles. So some of the people you saw there in that receiving line, they are heading off that way in that direction as well. But again, you see the Beast here heading off the tarmac. They're going to get this motorcade rolling. And again, we expect them to be heading to some sort of business here in Rome, Georgia, Latrice.
Okay, and we'll just kind of watch this as it takes up. One of the things, too, in all presidential visits when they come to town, usually the president will allow someone in the Beast with him to ride in. There is someone in there right now. And at this time, I could not make out who it was at this time, but there is someone who was in that receiving line who got into the vehicle with the president to ride to wherever his first stop is at this time.
Yes, Latrice, it does appear. It does appear that. And one other thing that I just want to add, I know we were saying we weren't entirely sure if that was Clay Fuller. We have seen that Clay Fuller has posted about being here as part of the crew that was welcoming the president. So we can definitely confirm that that was him. Again, the Trump endorsed candidate in that special congressional election here. It was part of that receiving line. And again, obviously one of the big things that we're expecting the president to talk about today as his motorcade makes his way off the tarmac and, of course, into Rome.
And you are watching as the president's motorcade leaves the tarmac, picking up speed out there, making their way to their next stop. And of course, we will have more on that and continue to keep you informed on the presidential visit to Rome, Georgia. So there you go. Again, a few more there. We see them leaving the tarmac. I think, is there everyone else there? Okay. So again, the president and a guest who is in the Beast with him and his motorcade as well, they have left the tarmac. They are headed to their next stop, and we are going to just kind of watch this play out, and then we will be back once the president arrives at Coosa Steel Plant. So stay here for the most complete coverage of the president's visit to Rome, Georgia. And there's the police car right there. And that kind of rounds things out right there. So there is the end of that. And you saw all of those cars there in between.